All right, back here on Spotlight, as we patiently await for football season to come back, we're taking a closer look right now at the Florida Gators. We did it for Georgia, right? So now it is only fair that we do it for Florida. Coming off of a freshman All-American season, this guy, DJ Lagway, enters his sophomore season as Florida's starting QB. And if you're the starting quarterback at Florida, you have some high expectations. So this is the record when DJ Lagway played the entire game, right? 6-0 there as a true freshman, passing for over 1,900 yards, 12 TDs, 9 INTs. He threw for a freshman record at UF, 456 yards in his starting debut against Samford. Now, we kept seeing some progression from DJ Lagway, although towards the latter half of the regular season, dealing with that hamstring injury. The Gators overall, despite a tough schedule, finishing 8-5 and looking to build upon that with DJ Lagway in year 2. So let's welcome in Swamp 247 Zach Goodall and our college football analyst Chip Patterson as we take a closer look at Florida football. And gentlemen, success for Florida starts with DJ Lagway. And we know he dealt with that hamstring injury, but in the offseason, we've heard about some shoulder injury out there. Is he throwing? Is he not? What's going on? I'm literally looking for videos of him throwing all offseason, trying to see is there like sign of him throwing out there. So Zach, I'll come to you. What is the injury status for DJ Lagway, especially as it pertains to his throwing shoulder?
Sure, Jacqueline. I mean, if you're looking for video, I think you really got to scour social media for these, throwing sessions he's doing behind the scenes. Because when it came to spring practice in the spring game, he didn't throw one, at least in front of reporters. And we've learned that just was not part of his regimen as he was nursing what was a shoulder injury that wasn't really described too in detail to us. There was also a lower body injury that, from what I've learned, was not related to his hamstring injury that he experienced last year. That said, it appears as though those things, at least from Florida's perspective, are in the past now. He has returned to throwing, according to Billy Napier. He said a couple of weeks ago at spring meetings that it's up to, I believe, 210 throws per week. And I know that some of them have been going on inside the IPF at Florida, even outside of these effective practice situations that they have going on there, even though practice is now in the rearview mirror. But catching up with some of his new receivers, building some chemistry. From Florida's perspective, or what they're putting out there, at least things are moving in the right direction. It's going to take us seeing it in fall camp, I guess, to truly 100% believe it.
DJ Lagway is such a special player. I mean, he is worth us going over the top, trying to get the Zapruder film to find out exactly how that shoulder's doing. We hear words like pitch count. We hear that the coaching staff is being very intentional about the amount of work that they're putting on him. And that is because, he is that kind of timeless car. He is something that is truly unique. And that's why I'm also a little bit concerned, because Florida's ceiling and its floor are very, very far apart. I think Florida has a pretty decent floor because of the way that this roster is constructed, particularly at the lines of scrimmage. But when you're talking about winning some of the toughest games on one of the toughest schedules in the entire country, you need to have that true difference maker. DJ Lagway is that difference maker, potentially the best quarterback in the country if he's able to stay healthy, if he's able to continue to develop. And so, that's why it is such a storyline. That's why we go over the top with trying to figure out exactly how healthy DJ Lagway is, because the Gators ceiling is entirely reliant on him playing for the entire season.
Yeah, and to your point, Chip, our colleague Josh Pate in his SEC quarterback preseason rankings, DJ Lagway is #1 over Arch Manning, over Nussmeier, over all of those guys. So again, just speaking to how much he is crucial to Florida's success. All right, let's talk roster retention, because we know in this day and age in college football and NIL, that is something that every team has to figure out. No team is a stranger to that. But for the Florida Gators, they lost 15 scholarship players to the portal, which is the fewest under Billy Napier. But Zach, is Florida really going to feel the absence of those 15 guys that they lost to the portal?
I wouldn't say so. When I look at the players that they did lose, there were certainly some contributors last year, especially a couple of young ones, a couple of starters. But really, I would put it at more like 5 to 7 losses are relatively meaningful to this team. And they went and did some patchwork through the portal. They took fewer players than they had in the past as well. They're really banking on these second and third year jumps across the roster, as well as players that they were able to hold on to from transferring out or even entering the NFL draft. If you look at Austin Barber and Jake Slaughter on the offensive line, Caleb Banks and Tyreek Sapp on the defensive line, they were players that regardless of their range, had NFL draft grades and the opportunity to go pro. Instead, they came back. I think that that's a success story for Florida that maybe goes a bit under the radar at this point, because that certainly wasn't something that we saw in the past under Billy Napier. There's really returning a core of players that are proven contributors for this team, highlight players. Caleb Banks and arguably Austin Barber, even with Slaughter coming off an All-American season, having the highest draft respect of that quartet. And you can really apply that logic across the board with some of their more rising players who I'm sure would have gotten a lot of interest in the portal if they were to have entered it.
Well, Zach, let's take that storyline and let's put it on the radar, like on the radar of everybody, because I think what Billy Napier has is a good feel for his locker room. I mean, I know it seems a little hokey or campy in this modern era, but when players like their coach, when players like the locker room, they are going to be less likely to go and chase a bag somewhere else. And yes, to be able to not only keep players from the portal, but as Zach mentioned, keep players from going to the NFL draft. They're not running out of Gainesville. They are investing in the season ahead. When Billy Napier had his success at Louisiana, those last couple of years was a core group that stayed together. He didn't have to teach them all the team rules from day one every single 6 months because they knew what it was and it allowed them to go further and win more. So if you look at that template from Billy Napier's coaching style, I know the Sun Belt's not the SEC, but being able to keep your core together, that has been when Billy Napier's had his most amount of success and something that I think Gators fans should be encouraged by.
Something that Gators fans should be encouraged by, though it's kind of like music to my ears, Chip. Thank you for that. All right, so Zach, I know you mentioned that they're kind of banking on Florida, that is, that 2 to 3 year jump from some players. So who are those players that are expected to kind of step into some bigger roles for Florida here?
Well, let me tell you one who's going into a college jump. It's Dallas Wilson, the star freshman wide receiver who made as big an impact, I think, as anyone in their spring game, to step in the way he did, even with some really, post-signing day late recruiting drama. He came in and didn't miss a beat, posting and tying program records in the spring game. And I think that he truly looks like a difference maker who could make an impact in his first game. He's a go-get-it type of receiver with a big build, has apparently even cut some of the muscular weight that he had on his body and just looks as though he could take on a full workload. And Vernell Brown is another receiver there as well. Who, while much different build, much different type of player, has the type of speed that can come in and make an impact out of the slot. Defensively, you look at their linebacker core. They played a large rotation last year of some of these second, rising third-year players. Former South Carolina linebacker Grayson Howard, Miles Graham, Aaron Childs, Jaden Robinson. I view that as arguably the strongest room on the team, even though you might not look at the box score and see 10 tackles for loss per player because they played in such a unique rotation, but they have guys that can come in and do a bunch of different things well. And I think you can apply that logic across the board. LJ McCray is someone that came in with DJ Lagway's recruiting class. He hasn't necessarily warranted as much hype at this point with the strength at the top of the edge rusher room that's coming back. But he's a 5-star for a reason. He's a 6'6", 260-pound athletic freak who I think is going to play a lot more in a rotation this year and make his impact. You can find different spots on the roster where there are players like that who have committed to the process, as we were discussing earlier, and seem poised to take on bigger roles in year 2.
So we know that any coaching job in the SEC, there are very, very high expectations, right? Especially if you see back-to-back losing seasons. Last year was the first winning season that we saw under Billy Napier, right? And it's largely believed that DJ Lagway, he likes him. That's why Billy Napier is back. So what does that job security look like for this upcoming season, Zach? How much pressure is Billy Napier under? Because every time we were talking about hot seats over the last, 2-3 seasons, it feels like Billy Napier was right there in the top 3 or so.
Yeah, I feel as though the hot seat talk has really dissipated at this point. Knowing the Florida fan base and knowing the expectations that they rightfully have for this position, and certainly there are people that still have yet to come around on Billy Napier, and I think they have their valid reasons to. So if things were to get off to another rocky start this year like last year, or they underperform relative to the expectations coming in, that conversation absolutely can be sparked again. But right now, based on the way they ended last year, the talent coming back, obviously the headliner being DJ Lagway, at least when he was healthy, especially looking exactly like he was marketed as a recruit, right now that's died down. I think if you were to ask the casual Florida fan, most of them would say that they're all in on this being the year. But that comes with its downsides. If you don't live up to those expectations, that talk is going to rifle right back up.
Yeah, I'm definitely in that group of like delusional fans where every year is a fresh slate for all of my teams, right? That this is the year winning the championship across every single sport for all of my teams. So with that, Chip Patterson, it is time for the schedule prediction. Florida, as mentioned, coming off an 8-win season, not a single noon game on the schedule. So that's good news if you're going to the Swamp. You don't have to die of heat exhaustion out there early on in the season. But Chip, what is the schedule prediction? How many wins are you predicting for Florida in a not so easy schedule?
Yeah, I've got them at 7-5. I think that this is a team that, as I mentioned earlier, because of the way that they're built along the lines of scrimmage, some of the names we've said here, whether it's Slaughter or Barber or Sapp or Banks, like you've got NFL dudes on the offensive and defensive line. You're going to be able to overwhelm a lot of the opponents, even in the SEC. But the losses that I have here at LSU, Texas, at Texas A&M, Georgia, at Ole Miss, that's where I'm seeing some tippy-top talent all over the field that could end up being a difference maker. But I'll say this, Jacqueline, I think this 7-5 is a little bit of a floor. You could tell me that one or two of those flip because DJ Lagway truly has taken a step forward and played healthy the whole time. But, man, this is a lot of injuries and a lot of nagging injuries. So when I'm making my prediction, I see Florida as a bowl team. I see Florida as having a winning record. But against, like, the SEC title contenders, I don't quite have Florida there yet.
All right, it is June 12th, 2025, and Chip says the Gators are going to go 7-5. I'm going to write it down, and I'm going to circle back when we are in the CFP. I'm literally trying to speak it into existence. Chip, Zach, we certainly appreciate it. Again, the Gators opened that regular season, as you saw it, against LIU on August 30th in the Swamp. If you want to hear more from Chip Patterson, you can catch him on the Cover 3 podcast. Our crew does an absolutely phenomenal job breaking down all the biggest storylines in college football in season, in the off season. Whenever you need it, you can watch right now by scanning that QR code on your screen.